Hello, welcome to a Thursday toast reference to the traditional Royal Navy toast of to a sickly season or a bloody war, traditionally undertaken on Thursday, which is going to be looking briefly at scurvy, which is also vitamin C deficiency, which is also why Drachinifel needed to add lemon juice to his grog. Well, I say needed to, wanted to. I think he just wanted an excuse to drink rum, to be honest. So, first of all, what's vitamin C? Vitamin C is a simple little molecule, C6H8O6. It's L-ascorbic acid. We use either in its acidic form or as an ascorbate. And it's basically a simple sugar molecule tweaked to form an acid. And we, humans, need it, as do a few other species, including guinea pigs. Why do we need it? Well, we're mutants. Yay, look at the X-Men picture in low res, taken from Wikipedia, so hopefully they won't sue me. And guinea pigs, which are cute. We have junk or pseudogenes instead of the genes to code for a crucial enzyme called GULO, I don't know, that you need to convert glucose into ascorbic acid to give you vitamin C. So, what do we use vitamin C for? Well, two things mainly. First of all, we use it to form collagen. So collagen is a really complicated protein or group of proteins, don't go there, made up of hundreds and to thousands of amino acids arranged in complicated triple helix arrangements. Collagen is basically the stuff that makes up soft tissues and bones and things, and so without it you risk being inconvenienced by things like wounds not healing, your teeth falling out, your blood vessels losing integrity and leading to spontaneous bleeding under the skin, and your skin and hair changing. It's not nice. The other things it does are to mop up free radicals. Now, these are not anything to do with, I don't know, extreme left or right wingers or anything, or environmentalists, but they are particles roaming around inside your cells that would damage complex structures that apparently we like having, like intact DNA or protein molecules that make up our blood vessels and things like that. Now, vitamin C probably is needed for other things, but because everyone or everything we try and do tests on to look for vitamin C deficiency dies from the first two things, we haven't managed to figure it out. Yeah. So how do we get deficient? Well, your average human's got about 1 to 3 months of vitamin C stores in them if they're eating a normal diet. So you can go for that long without a plate, without any more. We get it from lots of different foods because pretty much everything we might eat, except primates, other people, and guinea pigs, make their own vitamin C. So yeah, we're just the weird ones. So main sources for humans are fruit, veg. That's because if the vitamin C in meat will generally be broken down by cooking or processing or whatever. But if you have raw or minimally cooked meat, which is muscle, then you'll get some, and certain organs, particularly liver, seem to have quite a lot more. So just to go through, the symptoms are mainly from your poor quality connective tissue, as the collagen that's laid down is really not very good. So your skin changes, you start to bruise more easily, gums start to bleed, your teeth get loose, wounds stop healing, and in fact, old wounds can reopen. You get fatigue, myalgia, which is achy muscles, and you can get emotional lability as well. It's great fun. Treatment is vitamin C, and apparently people can start to feel better after about 2 days and be fully recovered within about 2 weeks. which is not too bad. So, what is it with the age of sail then? Well, it so happens actually cereals don't have any vitamin C. So, bread or hardtack or beer don't contain any. The kind of things you do to meat, look at Drachinifel's video, means that any vitamin C in that will be long since gone by the time you get around to eating it. There is also, for what it's worth, no vitamin C in rum. So the age of sail ship might have one of those little farms on it with, some cows, goats, sheep, and chickens. Unfortunately, milk doesn't really have any vitamin C in it if it's from cows, goats, and sheep, because baby cows, goats, and sheep can all make their own vitamin C, so they don't need it to come from their mums, and eggs don't have any in them, apparently. Yeah. Having said it's in just about everything, I guess I was wrong. I lied. Well, it's the internet, everyone lies. So, how bad was scurvy in the Age of Sail? Bad. Really bad. To give an example, in 1740, Britain was engaged in one of its wars with Spain. Forget which one. I mean, it was pretty much a permanent situation, I think, war with Spain from that period until the French managed to annoy the Spanish enough to get them to join us, I think. Yeah. So, Admiral Anson, who would go on to have things like a King George V class battleship named after him and things, was sent out to the Pacific to go and annoy the Spanish. He set out in September 1740, and by March 1741, scurvy had set in, despite them using the things that were thought at the time to work for it. And his force lost 75% of the men sent just in that period. Then they got to the Pacific, and people stopped. They got across the Atlantic and things, and they got into the Pacific, and people stopped dying. Yay! Then they set out across the Pacific, and of the surviving 25% of the men, another third died, which I think leaves them with about 1/6 of the personnel who set out initially. That's over 85% casualties just to scurvy. That's before you factor in, fighting the Spanish or shipwreck or any of the other things that can happen to you on board an Age of Sail ship, which, let's face it, not the best health and safety still. So what did they do about it at the time? Because people aren't stupid. The short answer is we don't know that much. And one of the reasons why James Lind of the Royal Navy is seen as such a big influence on all of this is we actually have records from him, and we have lots of records from the Royal Navy as well. So, it's a that's what we know about, to be honest. So as long ago as 1747, Lind had done a trial with a dozen men, all down with scurvy, when he was ship surgeon aboard HMS Salisbury. They were in the exotic locale, far from home in the Bay of Biscay. But because they didn't come back to land, they were people going down with scurvy. This was published in 1753. So those of you who think that it takes a long time from doing a trial to writing it up, nothing's new. And of the 6 things he tried, only one worked. That was giving people citrus. And it got to the point where fairly soon he'd had 12 patients with this. He gave each of the 6 treatments to 2 men, and within a couple of days, the 2 men who were being given the fruit juice, citrus juice, were nursing and helping the others back to health, or trying to help them, except of course the treatments they were receiving didn't work. So that was published in 1753 and completely ignored. He got promoted within the naval service and made more recommendations advocating sort of fresh fruits and vegetables and treatments and things in 1762, and these were ignored as well. Yeah, just deep sigh. Part of the reason for this, well, there were lots of reasons for it. You get a lot of confounders with looking into your treatments for scurvy, because the nutritional deficiencies and other things mimicked it. And so who's to say that somebody was actually dying from scurvy and not some other fun nutritional disorder? You also have the problem that it's not an issue on land, so the higher ups aren't so interested, and you can get more sailors. And particularly amongst physicians at the time, they were a really elitist bunch, and thought of themselves as very academic, and of course were completely useless. I will refrain from commenting on whether physicians have become any more useful or not in the intervening centuries. So finally, 1794, which you'll note is when James Lind died, there was an experiment undertaken, because people had been talking about this. The sailors, as I say, they're not stupid. They had been doing this, but just hadn't managed to persuade the Admiralty or the chief surgeons and what have you to actually help them. So 1794, HMS Suffolk, which was a 74, went on a 23-week voyage to India. So we've said that people have between 1 and 3 months worth of stores of vitamin C in their system. So 23 weeks, you'd be expecting to see a lot of scurvy, and actually pretty much everyone would have scurvy. It's just some of them would have done worse from it than others. So every man on this 74 would be given 2/3 of an ounce of citrus in their grog. So that's about 600 men. They had no cases of scurvy. Nil. You'd often expect to lose about 1/3 of your crew to scurvy on a ship on a voyage like that if you didn't do anything. That's not a bad intervention. Number needed to treat: 3. We don't have treatments that good in medicine these days. That's very good. So in 1795, an official ration of lemon juice was introduced into the Navy. Yay! All is good. You can have your slightly lemony rum. So, Age of Steam. And I've changed the background here mainly so that the nice limey green and Sicilian lemon yellow show up better. So, problem. In 1860, people had the bright idea of saving money by switching from the expensive Sicilian lemons to West Indian limes, which keeps the money in the empire and things. Unfortunately, they didn't realise at the time that the limes in the West Indies that they were using were really not as closely related to lemons as they had thought, and so they only had about half the vitamin C in them. They also applied various treatments to the juices, which basically tried to improve the life, how long it would keep, and concentrate it, and that removed just about all of the vitamin C. But technology and things also meant that voyages were getting faster, so people were not spending months upon months upon months at sea without touching land. So you didn't really see scurvy so much. So yeah, so you didn't really come up with a final answer to all of this until actually the early 20th century, and that was because, sadly, you had some polar expeditions who had in the kind of late 19th century, which took the brilliant cures for scurvy in the form of processed, concentrated, long life fruit juices, which had had all the vitamin C eradicated, and so some of them got scurvy, some of them would eat basically raw enough sushi or polar bear sushi or whatever to survive and get their vitamin C from that, because you don't need that much. But some didn't, and it was fairly grim. So because they could be trapped for years. So there's various sources that kind of talk about treatments for scurvy from before Lind did his stuff in the 1740s. Now, quite a lot of those sources are, and there's a lot of nationalistic pride, I think, here amongst Europeans. So I struggle to get access to ones about non-British, non-English people. So John Woodle was the Surgeon General to the Dishonourable East India Company of England, and in 1617 he published a work detailing treatments for scurvy, at least some of which would work, and also, as amongst that, saying don't bother taking these local treatments over to the Indies, West Indies. Just use the local citrus there instead. So, that's the 150 years before before Lind. There's also stories from well before that. So apparently Vasco da Gama might have known about this stuff in 1497, but still managed to lose a horrifically large proportion of his crew to scurvy when they were crossing back from across the Indian Ocean, because due to the winds there, seasonal winds, they had managed to cross one way in something like, I do have this written down, they'd managed to go east in 23 days, and coming back west took 132 days. That is a crappy commute. And there was also a story of a group of French fishermen who went up to across the North Atlantic to kind of, I guess, Newfoundland, Nova Scotia sort of way, and got iced in for the winter, and they had used treatments, and that was in the 1530s, I think. So back when Henry VIII was still young and virile and jousting and things. So, So that's scurvy. And that's been 20 minutes. So, yeah. Ta-ta for now.